Am I the idiot for not wanting to name our son after wife's dead brother? I was directed here upon the advice of a friend. After this issue escalated to a huge argument, about 3 hours ago, that resulted in myself leaving our home to go to a buddy's house. I am still here, and unsure how to go about resolving this with my wife. Myself, male 28, and my wife, male 26, have been together for 10 years, and married for 4 of those. My wife is pregnant with our first child, a boy, and she is due in early July. Now onto the issue that has arisen. My wife wants to name our son after her brother, who passed a little over a year ago. Her brother, we'll call him T, was her only sibling and they were very close growing up, as they were only 2 years apart. However, her brother was not the most pleasant person. Her brother was a drug addict starting from age 14 to 15, he stole from everyone around him including myself and my wife, he was abusive to every one of his partners and his child, and he served several years behind bars. T was also abusive to my wife and her parents. He had a stay-away order from our home because he broke in while we were away and stole our TV, my wife's jewelry box, and one of my hunting rifles. T passed last year in April from a drug overdose, and it affected my wife very deeply. It was her first major loss she has suffered, and she still attends therapy to help cope. When we found out we were having a boy, she immediately wanted the name to be T's name. I heavily disagreed, and I have offered many replacements, other family names like her father or grandfather's, but she will not budge. She wants our son to have the exact same name as her brother, first and middle. She has even gone as far to say that if we name him something else she will have it changed, or only call him by T. My final straw was when my wife ordered a blanket with T's name sewn into it for our son. I blew up, and I told her I was not naming our child after a drug addict who took advantage of everyone around him. My wife blew up at me, she screamed at me to leave, threatened to call the police if I didn't, she called me a piece of poop for talking about her dead brother like he was trash. I did leave. I told her I would attempt to speak to her again about this once we had both calmed down, and I apologized for speaking about T in a negative way. I'm getting calls nonstop from her family, calling me names for speaking about T and not wanting to honor him by naming our son after him. My family is on my side, her family is on her side, and my friends are split on the matter. So Reddit, strangers on the internet, I need your opinion on if I am indeed a massive idiot for not wanting this name for our child? Now for comments before the update, not the idiot. Naming someone after an abusive family member is never a good idea, especially if you both can't agree on it. Especially if she wants him to have the exact same first plus middle name as him. I could understand one or the other, but both seem like she's almost trying to replace him. Not the idiot. Why no one brought this up already, but naming their son the exact same name as her brother, he's gonna grow up in the brother's shadow. I really hope your wife and her family don't try to use your son as a replacement for the person they lost. Update. So, if you recall in my first post, me and my wife were expecting a baby boy in early July, and our conflict was occurring over my wife wanting to name our son after her late brother. We got into a huge fight, some names were called and threats were made, and I was led to this subreddit to ask advice and opinions of internet strangers. Well, a week after the post I sat down with my wife, and we had a very long and difficult conversation. She broke down and admitted she was struggling more than she let on with the loss of her brother, and she told me she felt uncomfortable talking to me about it due to my feelings towards him and how he lived his life. I was devastated to say the least. I have never felt like such a horrible partner. I was selfish. I failed to see him as anything more than his mistakes, and I failed to support my wife through his death. It was a long talk with lots of tears, and we both agreed to be more open in the future and less judgmental. We started attending therapy together less than 2 weeks after that, and we have been going ever since once a week. It was rough at first, but it has helped tremendously in dealing with the bumps in the road of marriage. As for our son, we came to an agreement on a name after lots of long discussion, a first name we both adored and her brother's middle name, just spelled differently. A good compromise for both of us, and it was my son's own name that no one before him had carried. We were both happy. Then on July 3, 2022, my wife delivered a beautiful, healthy, 8 pounds baby girl. To say that we were shocked would be an understatement. My daughter came home the next day, and since then I am still in awe of how we created something so perfect. We didn't figure out a name until she was a week old, but I am happy to share that Eleanor Shea is what we came up with. We are still adjusting to life with an infant, but so far it has been nothing short of amazing. Thank you for your past advice, internet friends and strangers. You're the idiot. How dare you disrespect your wife's grieving process by refusing to name your son after her late brother? You have no right to judge him for his mistakes and past struggles with addiction. Your wife obviously loved him and wants to honor him by giving your son his name. It's not about you, it's about her and her family's healing process. You are being selfish and insensitive to her feelings. No idiots here. Legit burst out laughing. So happy that you and your wife were able to communicate with each other, only for the cause of this whole fight to become irrelevant. Love that for you. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for kicking out my party guests for fighting? So I, male 21, had a birthday party tonight. Nothing huge. I invited my sister Amanda, female 17, and her partner JJ 17, non-binary, best friend Mateo, male 22, and his twin sister Myra, female 22. Plan was to order pizza, do some awful karaoke singing, and then watch a movie. When Mateo and Myra arrived, they had brought Myra's on-off boyfriend Jeff. Without asking, which really irked me, since it was supposed to be my birthday party after all. I don't really like Jeff, but I decided to put up with it, though I did take Mateo aside and tell him I would have appreciated a heads up. Things started out rough. Myra practically had to beg for Jeff's attention to get him to answer what pizza he wanted. He was short with her and barely looked up from his phone. Karaoke started, and so did the drinking, which only made it funner. My sis and her partner were having a blast laughing at us since they were the only ones sober. Myra bugs Jeff to do a duet. Jeff doesn't even answer or move when she starts begging. She practically screamed for him to sing with her, and he snapped no and went silent again. I'm fuming by now and sending Mateo quite a few glares. Myra starts singing All the Single Ladies, and then I Hate Myself for Loving You, clearly to get a rise out of him, which worked, and they immediately began to argue. How Myra is obsessed with marriage and Jeff doesn't like when she suffocates him. Jeff argues he didn't even want to be at this stupid party, but she wouldn't let him stay home. I step up and tell them both to knock it off and get the frick out of my house. Jeff screamed at me and called me a nosy little witch. Mateo tried to argue back, but I had enough and kicked him out too. I felt relieved but guilty when they left, but Amanda and JJ both said it was about time I stepped up and grew a pair, which made me laugh and feel a little better. Mateo texted me later on when we were watching the movie and told me that I should be ashamed of myself for not defending Myra when Jeff was being an ass. I tore him a new one for even letting Myra bring him. Said it was my party and Jeff wasn't invited in the first place. How he knew I didn't like this guy and thought I wouldn't mind an uninvited guest at my birthday party. He called me a birthday brat for kicking out Myra and Jeff because they were simply having relationship problems. I called him delusional and said he should lose my number till he realizes what a jackass he was. He replied, "Takes one to know one." Just before I blocked his number. I plan to reach out when the dust settles, but am I the idiot for how things went down? Now for comments before the update. Not the idiot. They brought someone uninvited to your party and they started a fight. You're totally justified in kicking them out. Your birthday isn't the place for them to work out their relationship problems. Myra needs to dump Jeff. She isn't going to change him into wanting marriage, and this situation is all full of red flags for them, and they had no right to have it out at your party. Not the idiot. They were rude by not asking you if Jeff could come along. They got drunk and started a fight in your house. Well done for standing firm, OP. Don't apologize for anything. You are not responsible for the stupid decisions grown-ass adults make. Congrats for, as your sister put it, growing a pair. Update. The fallout from the fight took a few weeks to smooth over, but the good news is, things between Mateo and I have been repaired. My birthday party just happened to fall during a stressful time between him and Myra. Jeff had been a major stressor as well, but even though Myra was really unhappy, nothing anyone, not even Matt, could say that would make her see the light. Pretty much that night, Myra and Jeff ended things for good, and about a month after my birthday party she reached out to officially apologize for how everything went down. Mateo had already given me an apology on her behalf, but she had been mentally beating herself up for so long and felt so guilty. Myra and I met up for coffee to talk IRL, where she and I actually got to connect and see how much we actually get along without her brother there. It's funny how more outgoing she seems when Matt isn't around. We have lots of music interests in common, and she invited me to a home-cooked meal at her place. Long story short, we've been dating for 2 months, and just recently I asked her to be my official girlfriend, and she said yes. Mateo also gave us his blessing, and he has told me that he is very happy for us. Not the idiot. Glad to hear a happy outcome. I hope Matt apologized for his own behavior as well. He had no business being mad at you in the first place. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to babysit my biological son because of a family emergency on his mother's side? It sounds like an idiot thing from the title, but let me just give a few extra details. He is my biological son, but I haven't been allowed in his life or am recognized as one. This happened after a pretty fricked up night of getting high off my ass with my brother and his wife. Add in alcohol, and we were all pretty fricked up. Most of the night was a blur, but basically her and I slept together. With his permission, he was also there. But in the morning we realized how badly we all messed up and agreed it will never happen again. My brother and I became a little estranged for a while because it was too weird to be around each other. They later announced being pregnant, but I thought I was safe because she took Plan B the morning after it happened just in case. After he was born I was getting doubts though, and really wanted to know for sure he wasn't mine. My brother eventually agreed to a paternity test, and that said I'm the father. I've been wanting to be in my son's life, but they won't let me. My family was on his side about it and told me to stop being selfish because on paper this is his child, since they're married, and if I'm around it's going to complicate their marriage even more. The whole time I tried to convince them my parents would say I'm a horrible younger brother. He felt that way too when I'd ask if I could at least come over to maybe play with him for a little bit. So about 2 months ago I gave up but kept my distance from them because it hurts too much. He's 10 months old, still hasn't gotten to hold him. But now because his mother-in-law got into an accident they want me to watch him for a few days. My brother is flying with her to go see her mom because he has to help out too. Our parents right now are in the UK for a couple months. They can't bring him because they're worried he might get sick if they take him to an airport. My brother says it's only 3 days, if there was anyone else that could watch him then he'd ask, but he really needs help. I told him no because he's fine with me being a sitter when it's at their convenience, but I'm not allowed to be a dad to my son. Then it might also hurt a lot more to actually spend time with him, than have to give him back and not be allowed to see him anymore. We started arguing and we were yelling at each other. My brother told me to grow up and stop being petty about what happened even more right now that there's an actual emergency, and they need someone's help. I do feel bad because I get it's a serious issue happening with her mom so they need to be there. At the same time I'm still mad about what they did so I don't know if that's just being petty or not. Am I the idiot? Now for comments before the update. Everyone sucks here. For creating this situation in the first place. Either suck it up and let your brother be the kid's father and stop fighting it, or go to a lawyer and get your parental rights established and prepare to be estranged from your family. But stop whining about not getting to be the kid's father and uncle at the same time in only the ways you want. And think about what's best for this poor baby boy, not the idiot if they haven't allowed you in his life, you're a stranger to him. You don't leave a 10-month-old with a stranger for multiple days. He doesn't know you, and will be scared, you don't know him or his routine. For the child's sake, like any stranger, you need to gradually get to know him, and for him to know you, with short visits with people he trusts there, before he's left with you alone. Update. In the end I did change my mind about watching my son. Honestly it was one of the most challenging days at first. It took a while to get in tune with his routine. The first couple nights he was fussy because I was a stranger to him. Little by little we warmed up. He's gotten so big it totally blew my mind getting that chance to finally hold him. It meant everything. It was very emotional for me. Their trip ended up being longer than the 3 days they anticipated. They left on the 14th late at night, and were gone for over a week, which was great because I got to spend so many more days with my son, and it was just amazing. They barely got back yesterday in the evening. Saying goodbyes was as hard as I was scared it was gonna be. It tore me up. Last night I barely slept. Just how much it hurt not to be around him. My brother and I talked this morning. To ask him again if it would ever be possible for them to let me be in my son's life as his dad. Trying to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Because I'm not trying to take him away from them, but I want to be able to spend time with him. Have some sort of shared custody. Not right away obviously because he's still a baby, but after spending more time establishing a relationship with him, and he's older, then discussing more custody time. He was still against that, so I guess there's my answer for this. Sister-in-law called me earlier to say thank you for watching him. She's sorry because she understands how badly I want to be in my son's life, but my brother just doesn't want that, and she has to be on his side about this. I've taken a lot of time thinking about this after my post, and decided I'm going to fight for my right as his father. I've had one consultation so far with an attorney. This one was much more helpful than the last time I tried talking to one about this. While he doesn't guarantee I'll get anything more than visitation, there's a chance I'll be able to establish paternity through the court. He wanted me to know that it's going to be an uphill battle to be ready for that. And honestly I am. It's a shitty situation, I just want to be in my son's life as his father, and not anything less. Not the idiot. It's sweet you got time with the little guy, and I hope you get what you want from the legal battle. I think your brother and your family are very selfish. Especially because your brother agreed to the test. If he didn't want to share the baby he could have refused outright and let you be an uncle. I do understand that your sister-in-law feels she has to be on her husband's side though. I think it's cruel of your brother. Also it's easier to have the kid grow up with this knowledge than him finding it out later on. That's just asking for drama, not the idiot. It doesn't matter he's the father on paper. Request a paternity test through the state you're in for establishing your rights. Biologically if he's yours you have rights to visitation and custody if you take it through court. Be prepared because they can ask for child support, and will probably put forth a visitation schedule. If you have a good living arrangement they can't take your parental rights.